and welcome to another online video. So today we would have had a girls group activity. Unfortunately, we are not able to do that in person today, but instead we are going to do it online here today. So today, as you might be able to tell, we are making our very own candles. So this is a really great activity. It's pretty cost efficient if you get a smaller pack of everything that I have in front of me here. And it's really easy to make. They are fantastic Christmas gifts, birthday gifts. They are just really personal because you can choose your own scent. And of course it's handmade. So I'm gonna go over everything that I have in front of me here, and don't worry about remembering these. I am going to link them in the description below of this video. So a few things that you might have in your home already. I have a large clothespin in front of me. And when I say large, I mean one that is going to extend across the top of whatever it is that you are using for your candle jar. So for me, this is actually a drinking glass that I got from the dollar store, but I really like how the candles look inside of this. I thought they were really beautiful, so I got a bunch of these for my candles, and these are only about $1.25 at the dollar store. I have a little plastic container that I also got from the dollar store. This is probably about a 1 ounce container here. You just need something small that you can put your fragrance oil in and measure it out roughly. This is also something that you might already have in your home. This is just a temperature thermometer that we are going to be using as well. The next three things that I'm going to be going over with you are things that you might need to buy from the description that I've linked below. So first, fragrance oil. So it is really important that you're using fragrance oil for your candle instead of essential oil. That is really important. I am using the scent Old Fashioned Christmas, and I have the 100 ml bottle. They do come in 30 ml bottles, and those are significantly cheaper. They are usually between $3 and $5 depending on what oil you get. Next, you need candle wicks. These are just a basic pack of candle wicks. I got a 100 pack. You absolutely do not need to get a 100 pack. They do come in smaller packs of much less, such as 10 or 25 packs, and they are much cheaper as well. They're usually only a few dollars for a small pack. Next is our Golden Wax 464. So there are so many different types of wax that you can use for candles. This is just the wax that I choose to use. I will link it in the description below. As you can see, this is a 6.6 pound bag. They do come in smaller bags. So I suggest getting a smaller bag if you aren't going to maybe be making a ton of candles. So don't worry when you see 6.6 pounds, there are smaller bags that you can get. And this is a really nice soy wax blend. And I prefer using soy wax for candles. It's just really nice quality wax. So those are the things that you are going to need for today's activity. And as I've mentioned, don't worry, I will link these supplies in the description below that you are going to need to purchase for yourself. So I'm going to head over to the stove. Go ahead and grab a saucepan if you already have your supplies, and then we will get started. Okay, so I have just moved over to the stove here, and what I have in front of me that you can't see is I have my wax, I have just a regular spoon, I have my temperature thermometer, and I have just a little 1 cup measuring cup that I'm going to be using to scoop my wax into my pot here. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and turn my stove on to low. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to start scooping some wax into my pot. Here's about 1 cup. Now, as you're scooping your wax, you will notice that it looks like I'm adding a lot into my pot to make just 1 candle. You'd be surprised how much this wax melts down, and it's better to put extra in your pot versus not enough, because whatever you don't use will simply re-solidify and then you are able to reuse it for your next candle. So I've put about 2 cups of wax in there, and I'm just gonna put a little bit more. Now, this will melt pretty quickly. As you can maybe already see here, it's actually melting quite a bit. It doesn't take long, but we are just going to melt this down completely. Once it's completely melted, I'm going to take out my temperature thermometer, and we're gonna start using that. This is a really, really important thing to have when making a candle. Every single wax has its own melting temperature. This particular wax needs to be melted to 180 degrees Fahrenheit. And the reason every wax needs to be melted to a certain point is because if you simply melt the wax and pour it in your jar, if it is not melted to a point where it is hot enough, the wax will not stick to your jar. Now that's really important. A lot of people think that you can simply melt the wax and pour it into your jar and that it will stick. This is not true. So maybe that'll happen if you get lucky, but not often. So make sure you are reading the instructions online for which wax you get and what temperature you need to melt it at. And again, mine in particular likes to be melted to 180 degrees Fahrenheit. So as you can see, it's only been a few minutes and it's almost completely melted. I just have a large chunk here that needs to melt as well. Something that you can get ready while this is melting on the stove is a large liquid measuring cup. I like to use a large liquid measuring cup when I go to remove my wax from my pot. That's what I like to let my wax cool in before I pour it into my jar. And that's where I often will add my fragrance oil as well. Although candles are easy to make, they do get quite technical. So we're almost melted here, just waiting on this chunk to melt. And then I'm going to pull out my thermometer. And I would suggest kind of constantly stirring it lightly. You don't need to stir it really, really fast or anything. Just nice and lightly. Okay, I'm going to hold my temperature thermometer in my pot, and we are going to wait until it reaches 180 degrees Fahrenheit. When it does, we are going to immediately take it off the heat. So as you can see, as you might be able to see here, it's just about at 160. So we're gonna go ahead and keep going until it reaches 180. It reaches that temperature quite fast. And there we are. We are now at the 180 mark. So I'm going to turn my stove off so that it is off the heat. Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to pour this wax into my large liquid measuring cup. So I will see you in just a moment. Okay, so I have just gone ahead and poured the wax from my pot into a large liquid measuring cup. Now, the next important tip about candle making is that they have a certain pour temperature. So this is the temperature of your candle wax that you should be pouring it into your jar at. So this particular wax, from what I can recall, has a pouring temperature of between 135 and 145. So I am going to let the wax cool in here until it reaches about 145. At that point, I am going to add my fragrance oil and stir that in. So the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna put my temperature thermometer in here and wait until it reaches 145, and then I will be back with the next step of this video. Okay, so as my candle wax is cooling to the side here, what I have gone ahead and done is grabbed a hot glue gun, and I have just stuck one of my wicks to the bottom of my jar, as you can see here. So I just find a hot glue gun is really easy to use for this, and it works really well at keeping your wick to the bottom of your jar. So go ahead and grab a hot glue gun and you can glue that to the bottom of your jar and try and get it as close to the middle as you can. And then we're just gonna go ahead and put this aside for now, and then we are gonna come back to our wax and add our fragrance oil. Okay, so my wax has reached approximately 145. So I'm gonna go ahead and take out my temperature thermometer here and put it to the side. Next, I've gone ahead and measured out about 10 mils of fragrance oil. So for this, you're really going to have to use your judgment. I've poured about half in my little cup here, and it works out to be approximately 10 mils. In other words, that is 2 teaspoons. So if that's easier for you to kind of follow along with, you can go ahead and do that. The rule of thumb is that you want to have 10% of fragrance oil in your jar. So that's not very much at all. Okay, once you've measured out your fragrance oil, you're gonna go ahead and pour it into your wax. Now I'm going to stir about 30 seconds one way and then 30 seconds the opposite way. And you want to make sure that your fragrance oil is mixed in really well. So I'm going to go ahead and switch and start stirring in the opposite direction for another 30 seconds. About 10 more seconds. Okay, so now that my fragrance oil is mixed in, and now that you have a wick attached to the bottom of your jar that you're using, we are going to go ahead and pour our candle. Now, this is a really important step that I need you to listen very carefully. I am going to place my jar in a spot that it is not going to get bumped or knocked over. It is going to take about an hour or two to completely solidify. So you need to make sure that it's in a spot that is not going to get bumped over. And you're not going to want to pour your wax into your candle jar until that candle jar is sitting in the spot where it is going to be for the next hour or so. The reason I say that is if I were to pour this in here now, pick this up and move it somewhere, my wax is going to kind of get spilled around and it's not going to make for a very nice appearance on the side of your jar. So it's really important that you pour this in the spot that it's going to stay. So now I'm going to go ahead and grab my large clothespin, my wax, and my jar, and I'm going to show you how to pour our candle. Okay, so what I have done is I have placed my candle jar in the spot that it is going to be staying for the next little while until our wax has completely solidified. So what I have in front of me is my melted wax and my large clothespin. So what I'm gonna do is slowly and carefully, I'm going to pour my wax into its jar until it is almost at the top. Right about there. Now, this is where you're going to use your clothespin. Your clothespin is actually going to hold your wick in place as your candle sets. And that makes sure that your wick stays in the center while your wax solidifies. So make sure that your clothespin is holding your wick in the center of your candle, and make sure it does not move. Okay, so now we are going to let this sit until it has completely solidified. So I will see you in a couple hours. Okay, so my candle has fully solidified. So when your candle is fully solidified, all you're gonna do is you're going to remove your clothespin and then you are going to trim the wick just like that. And then your candle is ready to go. I am going to let it sit for 1 full day before burning it, and then that's it. It makes a really, really good Christmas gift if you want to make these for Christmas. They make wonderful birthday gifts as well. It is very personal and handmade. So I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do get a chance to make some candles this year, please send me photos and tell me what scent you made as well. Thanks for joining, and I will see you next time.